Samoa sole mai tola mo male tu tu ne ba ngala tayo to is a full male tansi mino tolo to talo le to la evalu. It's 11 away from 8 news live from Samoa coming up at the top of the hour. Ile ne ba ngala tayo ole tai ole act party David Seymour. Fatis mai ile tara poklamal ne fo itami ole tayo. Welcome to the program. Kia ora ta lofalavan. Good morning, David Seymour. How are you, sir?
For lava, I'm very well, thank you very much.
Okay, when was the last time you went to Samoa, David? I think it was a year ago?
It must have been about a year ago.
Yeah.
And I was really pleased I got there because when I was in year 7, I was part of a school project to go, and it was really exciting, and we raised money, then it got cancelled. So I finally got there, and it was a great time.
Yeah, okay. Any memories of that trip that still you remember from that time? Yeah.
I think most of all, just Fiame Mataafa, and meeting her and hearing the story of what she's gone through to really uphold not just her own mana, but also democracy in Samoa. And I remember saying to her in the cabinet, look, just for what it's worth, I look around the world, there's so many countries going away from democracy where things are getting worse. And there's this one very small country in the middle of the Pacific, which is actually going in the right direction. And I think that's a beacon of hope for the whole world.
Okay, good one, David. Now, it's less than 2 months to go before the election on the 14th of October. The polls early this week and the previous week is looking good for ACT Party. What's behind this? Is it the leader or the policies?
I think it's a bit of both, because they sort of come from the same basic playbook, which is I have a very high school version of what a politician should do. They should listen to what people are worried about and what people hope for. And then put together some ideas and solutions that might solve, those problems and deliver on those hopes. And then go back and say, well, how do you like this? And if people like it, they'll vote for you. If they don't, they won't. So it's pretty old-fashioned. We do town hall meetings, we do policy papers, and we hope that people will see that if you give your party vote to ACT, you'll get someone who represents your values, but also somebody that is actually, sincerely trying to make a better world.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about your campaign. How many doors you knock a day, David? 3,000?
Look, I knocked up in my first campaign when I was trying to win the Epsom electorate before I was the ACT leader. I knocked on 14,000. It took me about 8 months. Anyone, and I can tell you, you can't do more than 20 an hour, and you can't do more than 5 hours a day because people call you and you got to stop and go in and do a TV interview and all that. So you can do 100 a day. So I did about 14,000. That took me 140 days, about 6 months worth. So that's the max anyone can really do. But this election as a party leader, I've done a few more street corner meetings, but we're mostly doing town hall meetings, and we'll do probably about 100 meetings like that over the campaign.
Okay, David Seymour, as we're talking about campaign, what happened to the party signs around Tasman and Marlborough? Did you breach was there anything wrong with the signs, or party signs, or?
Well, there was some complaints about them because every council, there's 67 different councils and they all have different rules. And I think, I could be wrong, but I think that's the council where they've actually changed the rules twice. Now, you've got to remember the people who put our signs up, they're not paid. They're volunteers. So, they just want to help ACT and make ACT more visible. So, you got volunteers, you got changing rules, you got different rules in every council. And apparently some of the signs are up in the wrong place at the wrong time. But, we fixed that. And I think the other thing is, I think the complaints came from our opponents because they, instead of putting their own signs up, they decided to complain about ours. We don't like that attitude. We're more about pushing people up than pulling them down. Yeah.
Okay, David Seymour, let me ask you this. A News Hub report, a quote that you did say, the Department of Ministry for Pacific Peoples produces nothing, wastes money like there's no tomorrow and should be gone, and under ACT it will be gone. Why?
Unfortunately, that's true. That they take about $30 million a year They employ 116 people. And when you look at their annual report, this is their one chance to say, here are all the great things we did. They said their biggest achievement was organising the apology for the Dawn raids. Yeah. Now, as we later found out, that apology wasn't real. It wasn't based on an investigation. There was no compensation. It really was a political rally for Jacinda Ardern. And the worst part was they hadn't actually stopped the Dawn raids. I mean, if the Ministry of Pacific Peoples had been there researching and checking, have the Dawn raids actually stopped, that might have been helpful. But instead, their greatest achievement, according to their own annual report, was organising a ceremony that actually was meaningless and ultimately wrong and insulting. So is that worth $30 million? I don't think so.
Okay, so New Zealand, of course, is in the Pacific Island. So is Australia. Why would you not supporting having the Ministry for Pacific Peoples? And New Zealand is in the Pacific, David Seymour.
Yeah, and I think we've got to separate out two things here. Do we value our location in the Pacific? Do we recognize that we are a Pacific nation? Yes, we absolutely do. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there needs to be a ministry. I mean, we got a couple of 100,000 people who play rugby. It's very valuable. It's growing. People love rugby. But we don't have a ministry for rugby. In fact, we have a ministry for sport. I'm not even sure that does much. I'm not sure that's very valuable either. So there's a difference between valuing something and wanting to have a ministry for it. And I just make the point that we need education that works for everybody, Maori, Pacific, Asian, and actually has to start thinking about kids not as any ethnicity, but focusing on their needs. We need healthcare that works for everybody. We need to build more houses. We need high-paying jobs with opportunity for promotion. But I'm not sure how having a ministry based on a type of people helps that, because all types of people need to achieve those goals. So let's do better in health and housing and education and the economy instead of having these ministries that sound good but don't actually do much.
Do you have any problem with Pacific Island people doing things in their own way and to honor their culture, David Seymour?
No, absolutely not. In fact, I think that a healthy society is one that has the expression of a wide range of cultures and practices. We should have arts, dance, music. You may know I've tried to do my own bit for the field of dance with little success. So I'm in favour of a flourishing culture with people thriving in many different ways that they choose. Ultimately, I'm in favour of freedom, but that comes at a cost, which is that you can't expect to take other people's money, use it badly, and not see them criticize you. You can't expect to have freedom to live how you want to live, but then impose restrictions on other people. So, while we like freedom and flourishing, it also requires tolerance, and it's a two-way street.
What do you think of your good friend Obito's valedictory speech last night?
Well, I have to admit, I didn't see the speech. I saw the pictures. They were pretty amazing. I don't think I've ever seen anyone give a speech, topless in Parliament before, but good on him. He certainly looked majestic with his headdress there. What I would say is that I've had a very few things to do with William over the years, being in a different party and so on. But I remember him on that trip to Samoa last year, and he's certainly a very charming individual, and I wish him all the best, but I was tied up and couldn't watch his speech. I actually had to do a couple of media interviews at that time last night. David
Seymour, Whawhetai Tele Lover, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to talk about before I let you go?
Yeah, look, I'd appeal to your listeners. If you want to make a difference in your own life, if you want life to be more affordable, the streets to be safer, and you want everybody to be treated equally, no matter which side of the treaty you're on, if you're disadvantaged, if you have needs, you deserve to be helped and treated with the same dignity as everyone else. If those are your values, then giving your party vote to ACT might be the best thing you can do this election, and I hope you'll consider it.
David Seymour, once again, Lava, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Lava, ole te tai ole ACT Party, David Seymour, ele te tua really Samoa Sfalima, Eva Tola Morning, Timor Tayao, Tatu Talama Samoa, Pia Mai, Tatu Fasalanga, business in